hello, hello, hello. Hello, this is Marshall Goldsmith. Very happy to be here today on LinkedIn Live with a couple of wonderful, wonderful people. I'm going to briefly introduce myself and my comrades, and then we'll get started. My name is Marshall. I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. I went to school in Indiana. I got a PhD at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was young. I've traveled all around the world, been to 102 countries. On the American Airlines, 11 million frequent flyer miles. So I love speaking and teaching around the world. Then I coach executives. I've been the coach of the CEO of Ford and Pfizer and Glaxo and World Bank and Mayo Clinic. So many wonderful people. And what I love about coaching is I learn so much. Although I'm supposed to teach these people, I actually learn far more than I teach from these wonderful people. Then I write books and articles. So I've written or edited 41 books. I've done 6 bestsellers, and most of the others were purchased by my mother, my father, and associated relatives. So I've done 6 popular books, and then, let's see, I have a wonderful idea. I came up with a wonderful idea inspired by my friend Aisha Bursell. I decided to adopt people, teach them all I know for free, and the only price is when they get old, they do the same thing. I made a little video, put it out here on LinkedIn, and I thought maybe 100 people would apply, and I'd adopt 15. So far, over 18,000 people have applied, and I've adopted about 250. And they're not great people. These are amazing, amazing people. And 2 of my wonderful people in our wonderful community are with us today. Sanyin Siang and Connie Dieken. 2 of my favorite people are here today. And getting started, let's talk about Sanyin. You know, I'm in what's called the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame. And Thinkers 50, along with Methods, is our partners in putting these programs together. Methods does all the technology, and they do a wonderful job, Justin and his team. And then Thinkers 50, they're the #1 organization for ranking and management thinkers and such as that. And I used to be the Thinkers 50 #1 leadership coach in the world for many years. Now I'm in what's called the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is good. That's where I put old people like me. So when you're in the Hall of Fame, then you don't have to be in the contest anymore. And now the new #1 leadership thinker in the world is my good buddy, Sanyin Chung. Sanyin, introduce yourself, please. Sanyin, hit the mute button.
Hi, everyone. I'm Siang. And I help leaders and organizations think through what are the new requirements of leadership for a new world. And I work with board directors, private equity firms, CEOs, military generals, and tech founders. I am also the executive director at the Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics at the Fuqua School of Business at Duke University, where I'm also a faculty member. Back to you, Marshall, to introduce Connie.
Oops, I'm not hearing you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Hello,
not only
Marshall.
does Duke have a #1, can you hear me now? Good.
Yes.
Not only do they have the #1 basketball coach, they've got the #1 leadership coach. Yay! And my daughter graduated from that school. Okay, time for a daughter plug. My daughter is now professor at the Owen School at Graduate School of Management at Vanderbilt. And who just won the award for the #1 faculty person in that Owen School? It would be Dr. Kelly Goldsmith, my daughter. So good day today for my daughter.
Excellent.
Proud daddy. Now, we have a wonderful guest, Connie Dieken. Connie is a wonderful person. She has been ranked #1 leadership influence advisor in the world. She is, she's only won 5 Emmy Awards, though, just 5. Connie, you have to get to work here. She's won 5 Emmy Awards. She is, and she's also in the Hall of Fame for both the broadcasting and speaking. And she's the author of some great books like Talk Less, Say More, and, Becoming the Real Deal. Connie is a wonderful person. So she's here with us today. We're going to talk about leadership and influence. We're going to listen to Connie and Sanyin. Sanyin, what's question #1 for our good friend Connie? And she's also a member of our lovely 100 coaches. Yay. So what's a question for our good friend Connie?
Oops.
Sanyin. Mute.
We don't hear you.
Here.
Got it. Connie, every single leader that we know now
Wait. Before we begin, see, Connie, Sanyin and I love each other because we always forget things like hitting the button so you can hear them.
And questions. Hey, audience members, if you are watching, type in your questions in the comments because we will ask those questions to Connie towards the later on in the show. So type in those questions and those comments. So Connie, every single leader that we are working with now is in a crisis mode. We're all like wartime leaders, right? And so how do leaders leverage and exert influence during times of crisis?
Well, first, let's have a little definition of influence. And I say thank you to both of you for having me and to the audience for watching and for your interest in this. So I'd like to level set with what influence is, because a research study, Influence 360, found that not all leaders are influential. So influence is the ability to elevate others and shape the future for the greater good. It differs from three other ways that people try to change minds, which would be persuasion, which is short-term, manipulation, which is one-sided, and dominance, which is long-term, but very one-sided. So when you ask how do leaders reveal their influence during a time like this is the most highly leveraged moment of a leader's influence. And why is that? Well, the moment something goes wrong, it reveals who you are. This separates the talkers from the doers. People crave humanity. They crave integrity and respect. And those qualities are coming out during this time. It's also a time for new leaders to be revealed in organizations. So if you're watching this and you have an idea that you would like to influence, this is your moonshot moment. Leaders are open, wide open to new ideas right now as they are rethinking everything. And the resistance to this is how we do things here has been shattered. So you're more likely to hear go than ever before. You know, I believe the most unfortunate outcome of this experience would be to emerge unchanged. Influential leaders are about growth. And more importantly, they don't grow alone. They bring people with them. And that's influence, elevating people around them and developing influencers at every level.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Can you say that definition again about elevate others? I love that.
Yeah. Leadership influence is the ability to elevate others and shape the future. When we first started researching influence 20 years ago, first we looked for a definition and we plotted it on a 2x2. And what we realized was that very few peoples were actually in the upper right-hand quadrant. The two variables are gain, who gains, is it you or is it mutual? And then sustainability, is it short-term or long-term? And so influence is long-term. You elevate others with you, meaning you also unify people, and you're shaping a positive future. So if that helps, there we go. That's what we learned.
Sanyin, I have a good heart but a bad memory. One of the people on our show said, people are going to remember what happened during this period. People are going to remember this. They won't forget this period. And somebody said, really good comment, what do you want to be remembered for? Because people will remember what you did during this period. What do you want to be remembered for? Connie, I forgot who said it, but it was, I thought it was very profound. And another thing, Connie, go ahead, Sonia.
It was Eric Schoenberg. The story.
Eric Schoenberg.
What's your story going?
Yeah.
The CEO of Fast Company.
And if I may add to that, your presence is what remains in your absence. And so these stories that people are deciding about you right now are the ones that will sustain and keep going with you. And so what leaders also have to do at a time like this is to manage the rumor mill, because the rumor mill at a time like this, the fire hose is at full blast. You cannot ignore it. It's a very powerful thing. So you have to pursue the concerns that are fueling this. You want people to turn to you. If you're influential, people trust your judgment, they respect your opinions, and they actually seek your input. Even if they don't agree with you, they give your opinion more weight. They'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And so it's at times like this that influence is truly revealed. And then comes the issue of sustaining that, because what comes next matters.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of our 100 coaches comrades is Carol Kaufman. Carol is the head of the Harvard Institute of Coaching. She's a wonderful person. And Carol, she used to be, I didn't know this, she was a trauma counselor before being an executive coach. So she helped people during periods of trauma. I didn't know that. And one of the, was very handy background for now. And one of the things she made is a comment she made recently, and might have been on our show, was we're now going through a transition from the acute phase of this crisis to the chronic phase of this crisis. Yes. And, one of my good friends is Jim Koussis. Jim is a great author. He did a book called The Leadership Challenge. It sold 2 million copies. He's a wonderful friend. I've known him for 25 years. Yesterday, I was talking with Jim. And Jim, he had a good comment. It was very sobering. He said, I don't see this thing going away for probably 3 years. Maybe the virus will go away, but the economic impact is going to be lasting. And back to Carol's comment, acute to chronic, as we move into, Connie, a new phase of this crisis, we face the fact that this isn't going to go away in 2 weeks. We're not going to reopen the stores and everything's going to go back to normal next week. This is a long-term slog. We mentioned a war. Well, World War II lasted long. It didn't last a week or two. What advice do you have on sustainability?
And to sustain your influence, first, you have to influence yourself. And that means you have to be on board that your role is to unify people, to elevate those conditions, and to shape the future. Next, you have to realize that in modern leadership, you have to influence in all directions, up, down, sideways, inside, out. That's why we term the promotional things we do Influence 360, because we realize it takes 3 things. Here's what you have to know to be able to influence someone and to sustain it. You have to know what they value. You must understand their resistance and also their knowledge gaps. I believe tomorrow belongs to those who see it coming. So in order to sustain this, you must be able to rethink tomorrow, go through the initial ideas of, okay, what needs to happen next, and identify the turning point, because it's not a one and done. And people want your humanity. They don't want you reading some, script that is prepared for you. This is what we're doing. So what our research showed us further, after defining what influence was we set out to find out how the most influential leaders in the world sustained their influence. How did they do that? And what we learned is they mastered 3 skills. We call this the influence cycle. So they do these 3 things. They connect, convey, and convince, in that order. Connecting is about openness and finding common ground. Conveying is about creating clarity. And Lord knows we need clarity right now because there are so many unknowns. And that's about building certainty. And then the final step is convincing, which is about earning commitment. And evangelists, we have to understand through this that this is a recurring cycle. It's not a one and done. Connect, convey, convince. And that is what the really masterful, influential leaders do.
Yeah, that's great. I had the privilege before he died of spending about 50 days with Peter Drucker, and he was so smart. He was the first Thinkers 50 #1 management thinker, just a brilliant man. And he said the only way to accurately predict the future is to create it. The only way to accurately predict the future is to create it. If you create it, guess what? You can predict it. So, I love what you're saying, Connie. Sanyin, what's another good question for our friend Connie?
All this COVID experience, I think COVID has exacerbated, as Jim Kim said in a previous interview, every single fault line that we have, right? And in a way, the world that was before will never be again. And you even said in one of your books that you can't influence a world that no longer exists. And so going forward, people are resistant to change. How do you influence through the resistance?
Well, part of this is to understand that we've been on thin ice with leadership influence for years. Maybe we didn't realize it, but we have been, because the internet democratized influence. This pandemic just shattered it. It's been the great equalizer. It sped up the inevitable shift from top-down influence to peer-to-peer. So we have to rethink the way that we do everything. Influence is a meritocracy, so we have to earn the right to influence people. The world didn't exist tomorrow. People are always talking about the new normal. Is it? Will there be a normal? I'm with you. I think we're going to be in this for a long time. We are part of a story to which there is no ending. As one of my CEOs told me yesterday, whom I coach, he says, Connie, there is no pace car for this. We are going round the clock working. We are exhausted. We're having to change everything everywhere. And every condition is different in every location. He said, we've never seen anything like this before, never dealt with this much uncertainty. So understanding first that you can't influence the way you did yesterday, because yesterday doesn't exist. And instead, be moving forward, understanding, okay, we have to connect with what people value, what their knowledge gaps are, and what their resistance is now. And then to be able to convey with clarity what you do know, what you don't know, and how and when you intend to get that information to them, that will be key.
Connie, one thing you said is we've never been through a period, or your friend said we've never had this level of uncertainty. I want to reinforce that point. Sometimes I hear people say this, well, we've been through hard times before. Let me help you. No, we haven't. We haven't.
Like this.
I'm 71 years old. There has never been anything like this in my lifetime or even close to it. No, we haven't been through these, quote, hard times before. This is not 2008 and 2009. No, this is not the World Trade Tower. This is a whole different ball game. This is a global crisis. We haven't been through this since World War II. And since I was not alive during World War II, I missed that. Well, if you weren't in World War II, you haven't been through this before, or you weren't in the Great Depression. You haven't been through this before because there has been no this. I love that comment. There has been no this. This is new. This is different. Welcome to a different world. So Connie, I just love what you're saying. Justin, we've hopefully some people have had opportunity to make some good questions or so for Connie. Do we have any questions from the participants?
Hello, Marshall. Yes, for sure. We do have a number of great questions coming in. The first one was actually directed at Connie, which I think, Connie, you answered really well. I just want to call out to Rajesh in Delhi, India. He had asked what makes an influential leader. And I really like the way you stated, Connie, connect, convey, and convince. And kind of as Marshall says, it's very simple, but not easy. Simple, but not easy. So I'm going to move on to one other question here that I think you didn't answer yet, which comes from Fazal Khan from Redmond, Washington. And Fazal says, what should leaders focus on as the world gets back to the office? Whatever that means in the post-COVID world.
Yeah, Fazal, this is going to be something different for every leader, but the number one thing is safety. People won't be able to make their best contribution to the world unless they feel safe, and unless they feel and know in their hearts that that is your priority as a leader. Otherwise, if we're just trying to get people back into a cubicle to do some work, guess what? You may have compliance, but you won't have commitment. And influence is about commitment. And here's the thing. Here's the dirty little secret about convincing people. You don't convince anyone of anything. They convince themselves. And so in order for that to happen, we have to really tap into their values and their gaps in what they don't know, and to keep them involved and understand their resistance. I should bring up something else here. In most cases, with most people, if you connect properly, you convey the right information, people are naturally convinced. But our studies have found that there are 3 types of people who are not naturally convinced. Number 1, narcissists. Number 2, the highly anxious. And number 3, those who are passive aggressive. I think we cannot underestimate what anxiety is doing right now. This is the age of anxiety on double steroids. And so what we have to know when people are anxious, if we are trying to help them through this, we have to encourage excellence, not perfection. Another thing we should do for them is create very clear priorities on what needs to be done and when, because we all feel scattered. And then acknowledge milestones. This is a time for humanity in order to get past that anxiety that is going to be lingering for a long, long time.
I just had a kind of little mental breakthrough based on what you've been saying. And Sanyin, I think I'd like to address this in one of our future sessions here. So you have to remind me of that. Here's my little mental breakthrough. We've spent a lot of time talking about leaders and how leaders can step up and motivate people. Yet we really haven't discussed this as a two-way street. Because, some leaders are going to be proven to be pretty unworthy. Guess what? Some people are too. And one thing I've learned about as a coach, Connie, I love what you said. I can't convince anyone to do anything. People ask me, how do I convince people to go through my coaching process? The answer is, I do not convince people. I don't convince anybody. If they don't want to do it, fine, don't do it. I'm way too old to waste time on convincing. Well, you know what? I think it's not only important for leaders, but leaders are going to have to make tough decisions. Leaders are going to have to make some very, very tough decisions. And the reality is, no matter how much positive thinking you have and how much good work you do and how much you, quote, pivot, a lot of companies are going to get hammered. Neiman Marcus just announced they went bankrupt yesterday. J. Crew went bankrupt. One of our good friends is one of the world's top restaurant guys. Every one of his restaurants is going bankrupt. A lot of companies are going to go through serious cutbacks and all this crap about, we'll just pay people and they'll be loyal forever. Pay them with what? You can't pay people with money you don't have, right? You can't pay people with money you do not have. Right? It's going to be tough out there. Yeah. Here's what the breakthrough I just got from you, which is a really good point. If you're going to have to reduce the number of people, don't sit there and do it on a, first in, last out basis. Do exactly what Connie, you just said. Who cares? Who are the people that really care? Yeah, and don't spend your time convincing the cynics, convincing the narcissists, convincing the people that don't care. Hey, in the new world, you don't care, it's okay, goodbye, because there's not going to be enough jobs anyway. And if you have to eliminate people rather than taking the coward's way out, which is basically we're going to eliminate people based on when they're entered the business. Really ask yourself a question, and let's keep the people here. Let's keep those people of care, and the ones that are really trying. And by the way, why try to have religious conversions with people that don't care? It's a waste of time anyway. So I love that thought, and I never had it till right now.
I would love to build on that.
I've noticed. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the big shifts that we're seeing in trends in leadership at Duke University is followership matters, right? Followership matters. And the world has shifted in terms of control from institutions to individuals. Therefore, today, leaders have to influence individuals. And at the end of the day, they won't care what you know till they know that they care. And so that idea of caring and the connection with that followers, what you said, Connie, about connection, in order to convince is so important.
And it's a two-way
something
street,
else
though.
You want to go ahead, Marshall?
Well, I just say it's a two-way street.
If I
Not only
can,
does the leader have the responsibility, I don't like the term follower, but the staff members, the team members, whoever they are, they need to take responsibility too. Not only does the leader have to care and try to elevate, the people have to care and try to elevate. So rather than this is all the, quote, leader's responsibility, which I never liked anyway, this is a mutual responsibility. The first thing I do when I coach people is I say, I don't get paid if you don't get better. I do not get paid because I'm a good coach. I get paid because you're a good customer. Don't make it about me. Leaders need to say the same thing. Look, I can only do so much here. Yeah, you got to carry this ball too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Connie.
Yeah, I want to tell you about some of the people that I'm coaching right now who say they are having the biggest breakthroughs. They understand how fortunate they are, that there are people suffering. But I think this can give some people hope. I am seeing people who are energized because their ideas are now surfacing. One gentleman, for example, that I coach, he's in a C-suite. He said that they brought 2 new products to market in 2 weeks. It would have taken 2 years before for the approvals and all of the things. Now, this had to do with PPEs and getting things out there for safety. But he says he's never been so energized in his life, is working round the clock, knowing that they're going to be helping people. But it's just the chief executives are telling me now they're seeing people stepping up and into roles that they didn't know they could do before, because the talkers, the people who are always making presentations and talking about things, turns out not all of them are the doers. So the hope that I want to give to you in the audience is that if you have ideas, if you have something to share, your leaders above you will never be more open than they are now. And this is your moment. This is the moment when everything is completely distracted and torn apart. This is the great equalizer. Great ideas will come to the surface.
Well, let's wrap up. As always, Sanyin, thank you. Love working with you. You're wonderful. And too, Connie, you are smart. I really love your ideas, just really some great stuff. And I like that do it now philosophy. So in summary, to paraphrase a great song, don't wait, don't hesitate, let's move before they raise the parking rate. So I think ending on that fine note, thank you so much, Connie. And thank you to everybody for joining.
You're welcome.